Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ken Sherman. Today we'll be talking with Tom Speaks, a local Chandler real estate agent who's been in business for 15 years. Before being in real estate, Tom taught English as a foreign language in Taipei, Taiwan for 11 years, where he and his wife owned their own private English school. Tom earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics from UNLV after serving a term in the military for 5 years as an airborne infantry soldier at the 2nd 75th Ranger Battalion at Fort Lewis, Washington, and then as a helicopter pilot in South Korea and Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Tom, welcome to the show today. So Tom, tell us a little bit more about your business. Who is it that you help?
I help anyone that wants to buy or sell residential real estate. So it doesn't matter if it's first-time home buyer, maybe someone's relocating here or moving away, or maybe someone needs a retirement home. They're selling their home to upsize. Maybe they're selling their home to downsize. Anyone like that I can help, especially the trickier transaction, like someone who's going to sell their house. They have to sell their house in order to buy a new one, okay? That can be tricky. There's a lot involved there, and that's one of my specialties.
Now, Tom, I understand you work with not just folks that are moving into and out of homes, but also investors as well. Is that right?
Right. Work with a lot of investors, too. We help them out find a good deal, and then we'll do the income analysis, make sure that the rentals in the area support the purchase price, that kind of thing. You bet we do all that.
Great. That's great. So, Tom, how did you get started in real estate? It sounds like you've had a career in military and as an English teacher. It's such a jump to go to real estate. How did that come about for you?
Well, it's pretty interesting. We moved here from overseas, my wife and I, and we bought a house, and then I didn't know anything about real estate at the time, nothing, zero. And I found out later after I bought the house that the real estate agent that sold us the house didn't really take care of us that well. She missed quite a few things that I found out about later. So I was sitting around one day. I said, hey, I can do better than that. So I did. I jumped into real estate. I got my license. I went to work. And my main goal is just take care of people as good as you can. You know, you got to look out for your client's interests. You can't cut corners, that kind of thing. So that's what got me going in it. And I'm glad I did. It's a hard job, but it's really interesting, and you meet a lot of great people.
You know, and you've seen some hard times being in it for 15 years. You've seen the boom and the bust, and the boom again, I guess. Is the market coming back, in your opinion?
The market in the Phoenix metro area is back to normal, quote unquote. So it's all that big run up that we had back in 2004, 2005, 2006, the crazy days, and then they had the bust days. So you had the boom and then the bust, 2008, 2009, 2010 is kind of a nightmare there for a lot of people. So, yeah, you just ride that out, and then now hopefully it's, like I said, quote-unquote normal, which means the buyers are buying, the sellers are selling, but no one really has an upper hand in negotiations. You know what I mean? It's not a seller's market. It's not a buyer's market. It's more of a normal market.
That's great. Well, it's kind of refreshing to be back to a normal market as opposed to boom and bust. I know a lot of realtors did really well during the boom, and then suddenly there were a lot less realtors in the bust. So you're doing something right if you made it through the hard times and the good times.
Yeah, the bust was tough, that's for sure.
I'll bet. So when did you first realize, you mentioned that you had a real estate experience with someone that didn't do a great job. Is that what really sort of gave you the bug to be a realtor? And, you've had a long career now, a 15-year career at this. It must be something you're fairly passionate about.
Yeah, I am. I just, when I work with someone, I like to meet them. Actually, 90% of my clients become my friends because it is a stressful process. You're in it together. You're in the same boat together. And we, not only me, but all the people on my team at the Realtor Henry Group, we pride ourselves on putting the clients first and just taking care of everyone, just like we would take care of our own mother, so to speak. You know what I mean? You just got to take care of everyone. So that's, and it makes the job kind of fun because it's not just about money. It's about helping people out. So helping people always feels good.
It's kind of what you give back that sort of leaves your legacy, right? So that's really good. Let's talk a little bit about your clients. Tom, what are some of the challenges that people looking for a realtor might experience in the Phoenix market?
Well, if you don't know the guy, if you don't know the realtor, you're going to wonder, is the guy going to work hard for me or not? If I need to go, I get a lot of calls from people where I ask them, do you have a realtor? And they go, yeah, I have a realtor, but he's busy, or he's on vacation this weekend. He can't show me houses, that kind of thing. I'll work hard for my clients. I don't have kids. I don't have hobbies. I don't take vacations. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm 7 days a week in real estate. So if you need something, you need to see houses, you need me to do something for you, I'll take care of it right away. Also, you call the agent up from, maybe you see them online, something, you call them up, they don't answer the phone. I answer my phone 99.9% of the time unless I'm in a real important meeting. And then as soon as I come out of that meeting, I'm back returning my calls that I might have missed. And another thing that people don't know about is sometimes you have a realtor, and once you sign on the dotted line, let's say you look at houses, you pick your house, you get a house, you make an offer, it's accepted. Now you have a contract. Then that realtor hands you off to another person in the office and says, bye-bye. You're with that other person now, and then they finish the transaction for them. I don't do that. I don't hand you off. I'm responsible for the entire transaction. I don't get rid of you midway through and say, bye-bye, now go with some other admin person. So that's another thing. People don't even know about that, but that happens a lot, especially with big real estate teams.
That's interesting. You're what I call an all-in realtor. This is your life. You eat, sleep, and breathe real estate. So that's a great asset to have in a realtor, somebody that just is passionate about what they do. And really, it's their whole life. Their whole life revolves around their profession. That's somebody you definitely want to work with as an expert and an authority to be an advocate for you in a real estate transaction. So, Tom, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see clients make when they're considering trying to buy or sell a home?
Well, one mistake that buyers make is they think, hey, let's run out and find a house that I like, and then later, after I find that house, let's arrange the financing. Let's call the lender and see if I can get a loan. And that's the opposite of the way to go. Once you decide to buy a house, call me up, say, Tom, I'm interested in buying a house. My first mission is to get you pre-qualified with a good loan officer so that we know that you can buy a house and we know what your price range is, what your monthly payments are going to be, that kind of thing. Then we'll go out and buy a house. Sometimes a buyer will call me, hey, Tom, let's go buy a house. So I ask them, do you need a loan officer? Do you need a good loan officer? And they'll say, no, I already have a loan officer. And they'll tell me it's one of these big companies from out of state. So if you come to Arizona, or you're in Arizona, and you're going to use an out-of-state lender, you're begging for trouble. They are not, how can I say it politely, they will tend to screw the thing up. They'll tend to screw up the transaction. And if it gets messed up too bad, the buyer can lose their earnest money. Now, I've never had a buyer lose earnest money ever, but I've come close. And when the deal gets screwed up like that, it's usually from an out-of-state lender. So it's way better to use a lender in Phoenix, in Chandler, in Gilbert that's familiar with the market, and that's all they do. And so they know what's going on. I call them on the phone. They answer the phone. They get stuff done. If I call a lender on the phone, maybe they're in Texas, I get an answering machine. I never can talk to anyone. I send them an email. They don't email me back for 2 days. That's a disaster. One of the biggest mistakes I think a buyer can make is use an out-of-state lender. Another thing is when you're going to buy a new build, for example, a lot of buyers rush to think, okay, I love the idea of a house that's newly built. They go out to the builder, they look at the models, and then they go in and they're so happy and they write a contract. Well, guess what? You can negotiate with new home builders. Very few people know that. You can negotiate everything with new home builders. That's what I help people do. That's one of my specialties. I know how to negotiate with new home builders to help people buy a house. Okay? Now, sellers, the biggest problem that sellers have, the biggest mistakes sellers have is they price their house too high. Okay? The short story is you price your house too high, no one's going to buy it. It's going to sit there. And then when you do finally need to cut the price, it's going to have been on the market for a while, and that's a big mistake. You want to price your house right in the beginning.
pricing your house right, you take advantage of that initial excitement where the house just comes on the market and hits the MLS and people are all looking at it. That's really the time you want to have your house priced right. That's when you get that initial burst of excitement and interest, right?
Exactly right. You said it better than I did. Perfect. You're exactly right. That's right.
Tom, what I'm hearing is that it's really an advantage to have somebody like you with lots of experience that's really dedicated to their work to, even in a new home purchase, to go in and take advantage of some of the things that maybe a new-time buyer doesn't really understand, that you can actually negotiate with even new home people to get a better price. So, Tom, is there a misconception that a lot of people have about buying and selling real estate?
Well, I'll talk about the selling first. That's from a home buyer. Let's say a home buyer calls me about a house we have for sale. He'll say, I only want to work with the listing agent because I think he'll be able to cut the price for me because he's going to be getting less commission. We're cutting out the buyer's real estate agent, so to speak. So I get buyers come in and say, I only want to work with a listing agent. Well, here's the problem. It doesn't work that way. No listing agent is going to cut his commission just because you come in, Mr. Buyer, without an agent. It's not going to happen. Mm. And the other thing is, there's a lot that goes on in a real estate transaction. You need a realtor to represent your interests. That's all there is to it. So if you as a buyer want to buy a house and you're going to let the seller's real estate agent represent you, now that's like going to court and letting the other guy's lawyer represent you. That's ridiculous, and it's not a good move. And you're not going to be saving money. You're at risk. I mean, there's a million things can go wrong, and you got no one specifically looking out for your own interest. So that's a big thing. That I guess that would be a buyer's mistake. You need to, as a buyer, you need to have a real estate agent to represent your interests, and you don't just walk in and say, hey, I just want to work with the seller's real estate agent so I can maybe save a couple $1,000, theoretically save a couple $1,000. It's not going to happen anyway. So,
they end up costing themselves a lot of money and headache. And, a real estate transaction is commonly one of the biggest financial investments someone's going to make. And I can't imagine trying to do that on your own. And, and then on top of it, you've got somebody on the other side that has somebody representing them that knows the ins and outs. That's a prime opportunity to be taken advantage of, in my opinion. I think having an experienced realtor like yourself would be a real big advantage in any real estate transaction, buying or selling.
Right, yeah. Well, realtors always got to be honest and that kind of thing. You can't be lying and cheating, but you definitely, as a buyer or a seller, you need a real estate agent to represent your interests. That's pure and simple.
Tom, let's talk a little bit about your business and the strategy and model that you've used to grow your business and seen the success you've seen. What's the growth of your business been like over the last 15 years?
Well, it's up and down, just like pretty much anybody's business in this market would have been up and down, up in the boom time, down in the bust time. But since, let's call it the bottom, let's call 2010 the bottom. So let's call 2000, the end of 2010 onward as the kind of the recovery. So during the recovery, you just gotta you gotta work hard. You got to do a lot of open houses. But the main thing is you've got to take care of each person so that that person will refer to you later. So if you take care of each and every client like they're your only client, and then they say, hey, thanks, Tom, you did a good job, and then they'll refer their friends to you. They'll refer their relatives to you. So you build it by far, it's word of mouth for me. We do some online stuff, advertising, that kind of thing, but by far, in a way, our biggest growth is just from word of mouth from our past clients.
Tom, tell us a story of success, an example of how your expertise was instrumental in achieving a certain outcome for a buyer or a seller.
One of my favorite stories is from the middle of 2011 until about the middle of 2013. That's when Phoenix had a really steady and significant rise in the prices of homes, coming up from the coming up from the bottom, coming up from the bust years in 2000. The bottom was 2010, so 2011, 2012 into the middle of 2013, it was up and up and up and up. And then part of the problem there was a shortage of houses for sale. So I had a buyer. I was working with him for months because we were looking. We couldn't find a house we liked. Then when we did find a house, we got outbid by other buyers. And at that time, there were a lot of cash buyers in the market, so everyone was getting cash offer. So it's hard to compete with the cash offer when your buyer's getting a loan, and my buyer at the time, that guy was getting a loan. So we decided to put one clause in the contract, and it's a little technicality. So I wrote the offer on a house that we loved. I called the agent. There's 3 other offers. One of them was cash. So we made a very strong offer. I put a little clause in the contract that made our contract just as strong as any cash offer. So it's a little technicality I could point out when I meet with people one-on-one how to do it. But anyway, so the end of the story is we did get that offer, and we outmaneuvered a cash offer. My guy was getting a loan, and we got the house over the cash offer. So that's kind of the story I tell, and then we actually, my office actually took that contract, made copies, and used it for training and that kind of thing. So that was the high point, and he was happy. He was very happy to get that house. So
that's another real good reason for using a professional like you is, not everyone knows all those little ins and outs and intricacies of writing a contract with clauses and things that really protect your buyer or your seller.
There are many ways to be creative and get things done for your clients, that's for sure. I think we know most of them.
Do you help people work with loan officers? I would imagine you have, after this long in the industry, you've got relationships with vertical industries that allow you maybe to push transactions through more smoothly. Is that correct?
Oh, that's right. I got vendors that do everything, handymen, I've got painters, electrician, you name it, everybody. I got estate planners. If you have a question about your estates while we're in the process of home buying or selling, I got all that.
So it's really a benefit to use someone like you that's got lots of relationships with everyone that's going to be involved in the whole process, from fixing up the home if it needs it, or a painter, or doing any sort of financing or anything that you might need in the real estate transaction. It sounds like you've got a professional that has been sort of vetted, and you've used them and they've performed well. And somebody using someone like you for their real estate transaction really gains all of your experience and your contacts.
That works really good for sellers too, because sellers are the ones often, the buyers will do their inspection, and the sellers often will agree to fix things that the buyer is asking them to fix. Well, so the seller's going to look at me and say, hey, I need to fix the window, I need to fix the door, I need to fix the roof. Tom, what do I do? And I've got professionals in all those areas that can fix anything that's wrong with your house. And that works really good for the sellers. And then what it really works good for is often I'll have a seller that's relocating out of town. So he says, Tom, sell my house. He signs the paperwork and he leaves. He moves. He goes to San Francisco or wherever he's going. And I'm here watching the house and selling the house for him. So I definitely got to have the people ready to go, ready to fix things, and ready to fix things on short notice too, because often you'll call a handyman if he's busy for 2 weeks. Well, I can't wait 2 weeks. I got to have it tomorrow, so I can call in favors, get things done right away. So yeah, that helps out, especially for the sellers.
It's a big benefit. So Tom, for people in the Phoenix area that might want to talk with you more about buying or selling some property, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, they can call me on my cell phone number, which I answer all the time, or 99.9% of the time. This is my number, 602-418-8045. Or they can email me at my email. It's my name, tomspeaks@cox.net. Speaks just like the verb, speaks. And then otherwise they can just Google Tom Speaks Chandler Realtor. I'll be on the front page, about 10 different categories. So
that's great, Tom, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. I know you're busy working with clients, and took a little time to be on the show today with us. I really appreciate that.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.